Hi, everybody. So I wanted to continue a little bit about Arduin, and I said I wanted to get to the adventure next. And I didn't, we'll still do monsters and stuff, but I'll be putting them on Monster Mondays and getting that back on schedule like I did this week. So the adventure. Let's see what they say about this in this 1980 rule quick start section. Okay, now that you've read the rules, you're probably saying fine, but now what? Well, this is what. Here is how to have your first adventure. So they've put in here a prototype adventure. The first thing a GM must do is think about a suitable starting script for your first adventure. Now, the script must take into account how the players' different characters will meet. This is easy. You can have, say, a special holiday in honor of the king's birthday, where everyone from miles around has come to see the festivities. During this, the characters can meet accidentally or at an inn, where they are all just happen to be stayed. Or perhaps the king will announce a grand quest, where all who wish to bring the golden chalice of the king back to its rightful owner may attempt to do so for some great reward or such. Or how about all the characters traveling on a boat to some island or other far away place? They would certainly get to know one another then. So you decided upon the basic script. Then what? So the meet. How do these people meet? Well, then you decide on, say, 5 or 6 encounters the characters might have along the way. You take a piece of paper and list how many, what kind, how big, what loot there may be, if any, names if needed, reasons to be there if needed, and so on. Then each day they travel, roll a d10. If a 1 or a 10 comes up, then they've had an encounter. You can choose which it will be or pick randomly. It really does not matter. In more civilized areas, roll a d20. Remember, this is using only 10-sided dice. A 1 and a 20 being an encounter. Now, you have to decide upon what's waiting for them as their goal. A dragon with its treasure hoard, an orc encampment, and captives to be freed. It's up to the GM to write this down on a separate piece of or pieces of paper, so it will be ready when the characters reach their destination. As the characters travel to where they're going, the DM describes what they see as they move through the land. For instance, the GM says, well, you're crossing a grassy plain. No trees in sight, but away on the horizon is a dark line of tall mountains. And later on in the same day's travel, you've gone about 12 miles now. The wind has picked up to a nice little breeze, and it's starting to cloud over. Maybe it will rain tonight. The mountains are much closer now, but still at least a day's travel away. However, you can see off in the northwest a line of trees, a forest perhaps, and 5 or 6 miles away, what do you do? And that's not necessarily, the best way to do it, what would you do? But, this is pretty kind of standard stuff. The player speaking for the characters might say, I'd not like to be caught in the open if a storm breaks. We should be able to make the trees lines before dark where we can find some cover. What say you, my friends? The other players would, of course, respond to this, as the characters and gameplay would continue based on their decision. Now, you might ask, how in the heck do I know what it is the characters are seeing? That is not hard to explain. In fact, I'll use the overworked word again. It's simple. You take an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of graph paper, 4 or 5 squares to an inch, and draw a little map of the countryside. they will be traveling through. Each square could be a mile or more or less, as you desire, with rivers drawn in blue, forests in greens, mountain in brown, towns and roads in red, etc. Now, as a GM, you have a map, but the characters do not. They must draw one from your description, if they want one, as they travel along, which is something I totally encourage, and I don't give them graph paper. If they're not high tech, they just have regular paper. You know, if they got a gizmo that allows them, well, I got my little scanning device here, then yeah, you can have some graph paper. So now you're beginning to see what a GM really is. He's a storyteller. So I guess we get the storyteller thing in pretty early, late 80s, huh? The better your description or stories are, the more real it is to players, and the easier it will be for them to participate in your fantasy. Yes, but you can also overdo your descriptions. Be aware of that. Where everyone's like, oh, the GM's still talking and talking and talking. And are we going to get to do anything, say anything? Will the description ever end? You do not want to do that either. Okay, now what? What if the castle run by an ogre or a cave complete of tunnels full of koboldings? That is the destination. How do you show this? Here's how. Using the same kind of graph paper, each area, whether it's underground, dungeon, cave complex, above ground, castle, etc., you draw it beforehand. Each room, hallway, and tunnel is drawn in, and you have a list to show that it's in each location. For instance, if there is a 26 rooms, this dungeon, each should have be lettered A through Z, or numbered 1 through 26 on the map. The GM sees that the party is going to open a door in room B, checks his list, and might see something like this. Room B, the walls are red sandstone, and 30 feet high ceiling is of polished granite, as is the floor. In the room near a large 10-foot long by 5-foot wide by 4-foot high wooden chest are 3 gargoyles. There would also be the stats for the gargoyles listed, so no game delay would be needed for the GM. I have talked about this. It is something I figured out to do a long time ago. You totally need to have your monster stats right there, or your trap stats, or whatever is in that room that's going to be the challenge, to prepare for the fight that appears to be coming up. The treasure, if any, would be listed as well. Once the fight is taken care of, the characters proceed to bind their wounds, bury their dead, if any, and start their movement again if they wish. The sequence of events is repeated throughout the adventure. They can do other things besides enter combat with creatures, by the way. So that gives you a basic breakdown of how to get an adventure started. And then it goes into some more information. Let's see, special bonus. This complete adventure includes for 2 reasons. Step 1, to show you how the basic script is written from a storyline to dungeon. And step 2, to give you the first adventure as a starting point. You can save it for later. We hope you enjoy this adventure. So they actually have in here an adventure. They also start introducing you to a map, guides, keys that then you can use when you do a map. And so we will take a look at this next time. This first floor of this adventure. So like, subscribe, comment. I think you'll find the chart that was in there interesting, and why it's interesting on that first floor. Something to think about, so you can keep your dungeons fresh. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how you're doing. And we're going to start to explore their concept of going on an adventure. All right. Bye.